Are we too ideologically resistant to the idea of medicating depression? A major scientific study, the largest ever of its kind, suggests that more than 1 million extra people should be offered antidepressants or other treatments, and we should not be squeamish about treating mental health problems with drugs. But they also recommended that Prozac, one of the best known but they claim least successful, be swapped for others that consistently perform better. Katie Razzle has the story.
I don't know if you've ever been driving and you just miss running over a child and you feel completely sick in your whole body. It felt like that, but it never stopped. Or, I don't know if ever you have been on a plane where there's an emergency landing and you think you're going to die. It was like that, but it just didn't stop. I had this feeling I was going to fall and the pit was bottomless and I had to hold on for dear life.
It's estimated mental illness affects 1 in 4 people in the UK each year. For many of them, today's study may be welcome news. The drugs work for moderate to acute depression, is the message, though some antidepressants are more effective than others. The number of prescriptions for antidepressants in the UK has doubled over the 10 years between 2006 and 2016. There may be some over-prescription, those behind the report accept, if the drugs are given for mild depression. But the bigger issue for them is the 1 million people in the UK who are missing out on treatment entirely.
The big problem is that there's a huge proportion of patients who need the treatment because they have moderate to severe major depression and they do not receive an effective treatment. When I say effective treatment, I mean either pharmacological antidepressants or psychological. And the other big problem is untreated depression can be fatal.
Rachel Kelly had her first serious episode of anxiety-driven depression when she was in her 30s.
I was suicidal and I was screaming and saying I wanted to die and I felt so ill.
She spent a couple of years on antidepressants then and again a few years later. With such a stigma still around mental illness and antidepressants, she believes today's report will help.
I think I felt a sense of relief because I think it's bad enough feeling very depressed and then to also worry whether the treatment's the right treatment or the wrong treatment. I think my experience is when you are severely unwell and if you are in hospital and you are suicidal, in a way the whole debate is bonkers. When you are that unwell, you are going to try and find drugs to get you better.
But research shows that while more than 90% of the world's big pharmaceutical companies were investing in researching new drugs for psychiatric conditions like depression and schizophrenia back in 2012, now only 27% of them are doing so.
We need to innovate and find new treatments to help people feeling better. That's the big challenge for the future.
And are you saying that at the moment the pharmaceutical companies aren't doing that?
No, because at the moment it's not cost effective for them.
Some psychiatrists believe the use of antidepressants on a day-to-day basis is already too high, so there is some resistance to the suggestion in today's report that more people should be given the option of drugs.
So long-term use of antidepressants can cause physical adverse effects, including sexual impairment, and sometimes that can persist when people stop taking the medication. They can cause suicidal and sometimes aggressive impulses in young people in particular. They can cause fetal abnormalities and they can cause very prolonged and severe withdrawal syndromes in some people when they try and stop them. And the mental impact of long-term treatment I also think is significant because they give people the message that they need treatment and that they are not able to manage their problems themselves.
It was a stigma to take the drugs.
When Rachel Kelly was ill, antidepressants were the answer, though she says ideally drugs would be used only in the short term and they aren't the only solution. Talking therapy, mindfulness, diet and even Sammy the dog have all played a part in her recovery. She's kept the card on which a psychiatrist wrote a message when she was at her bleakest.
It says you will get better, and I used to hold on to this card for dear life. I sit here as someone who's well now and I did get better. And, other people will get better. So anybody who's watching who's feeling a bit emotional, but anybody who's out there who is suffering, my heart goes out to you and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. But I do believe firmly that you can get better.